My name is Desiree Collins, and I'm a sales executive here at Avalara. So we just want to walk you through sort of what our software is capable of doing. So Avalara has an OEM agreement with Sage, so we know our solution works within the Sage environment. You can see here that we connect into Sage 100 all the way up through Sage Intacct. So whether you're on 100 today and potentially looking at Intacct, or have already moved to Intacct or staying on 100, we have the capabilities to work with all of your systems. The goal here with using Sage Sales Tax is to integrate seamlessly, drive efficiencies, stay compliant, reduce risk, and become scalable with your business. So as your business grows, Avalara will grow with you. This here is a conceptual diagram of how our solution is working. So we start with our tax research to understand the taxability of the products and services that you guys have to offer to your customers. We then have a digital repository of all of your exemption certificates. So we turn paper into pixels to make sure that we have the ability to gather those exemption certificates and provide them to anyone if needed. We will also hook into your ERP or your e-com system, anywhere where you do a quote, bill, or invoice, to be able to do a tax determination. Once we do that, all this information is going to live in the cloud, and so our team will be able to take a look at the exempt sales as well as the taxable sales to do the sales tax returns filings for you. Not only do we do the filings, but we do the remittance as well. So we'll go into a little bit deeper discussion about all these solutions here. Avalara Tax Research is a web-based tool, so it does not actually touch the Sage environment, but within this tool, you have an easy-to-read yes or no, this is taxable or this is not taxable, but we also provide the legislation to go with that. So just in case you have a customer who's asking, hey, why did you tax me that way? Or if you're going through an audit and the auditor wants to know why you taxed the way you did, you'd be able to provide the legislation to them. If you're in this tool and you have a little bit more of a question that's specific to your business, you have the ability to reach out to our tax experts, where you would type the question that's specific to your business. They will then respond to you in about 24 to 48 hours. They are not going to Google, they're actually talking to the states anonymously, so that we make sure, again, we're providing that legislation to you. Once we have the research done with the Avalara Tax Research tool, we'll use that to help map all of your products over to an Avalara tax code. So when you go through the setup of the system, you're going to tell us where you are collecting sales tax, which customers are yours are considered tax exempt, and then we'll take the taxability of your products and services into consideration. So this here is actually what's happening on the back end. You never have to look at this, but if you wanted to take a look at how we're arriving to our tax determination, this is what it would look like. So we take the ship from address and the ship to address, and we're actually going to turn this ship to address into a lat long. A lot of people don't know this, but using zip codes can have overlapping taxing jurisdictions. And so we want to make sure that we're actually looking at a pinpoint on the map. So based on the information you provided during the implementation, we will go through this automated decision tree for every line item on every invoice. So are you collecting tax here? Is your customer taxable? And then is the product or service taxable? If at any given point we see no, we're just going to put $0 back on the invoice. So here in this example, it's yes across the board. And so at this specific longitude, latitude, these are the jurisdictions that apply. Here are the tax rates, and the dollars and cents are going to go back onto the invoice. So no longer do you have to keep up with tax schedules or tax tables. The only tax code will be AvaTax, so that your engine knows to ping our engine on every invoice. If the customer is considered tax exempt, we will use our solution that we call ECM, which is where we house all of the exemption certificates. So today, if you were to be audited, you'd probably have to go back and say, oh, who did I sell to? And where is that exemption certificate? Is it kept up to date? Is it current? This tool allows you to actually go in, put the dates of where you're being audited. It will pull out the exemption certificates that applied to any of the sales during that process. So it makes for a very streamlined audit if you're ever audited. The question becomes, how do we get those certificates into the tool? So we'll go through a managed services project where we'll go through a software setup. You're going to let us know who your exempt customers are and provide us with what we call clean data. So that is what's the business, a point of contact there, and their email address, and where they're doing business with you. You're going to set up your settings how you like to see them. Then you're going to work with our project plan team, and we will have pre-written emails, but we'll customize it to your business. So we'll make sure we're putting your logo in there. From there, Avalara is going to take over, and we're going to do a series of email campaigns to go get those exemption certificates. So if your customer is going to get an email from us, it's going to look like it's coming from you, but there will be a link in there where they actually they'll click it and it'll take them over to what we call Cert Express. We will already have some of the business information, specifically where they do business, but they're going to let us know why they are considered tax exempt, which will populate the correct form. Once they get the form, they're going to fill it out, adding their tax ID number, signing it, and doing all of that. They're going to send it back to our team. If at any point in time they have a question, our team will actually take over answering that, so your team does not get bogged down with having to answer questions for the customers. When we get the exemption certificate back, we're going to do a few things. We're going to make sure it's complete. There's nothing missing. We're going to do a tax ID verification for as deep as the state will allow us. So some states only let us look at the configuration of the tax ID, and then some of us will actually allow to match the tax ID to the business name. Then we're going to upload it into the system, and once we upload it into the system, we'll attach the expiration date. A lot of folks don't realize that most of the exemption certificates do actually expire. From there, we have the maintenance program, which will allow us to know which exemption certificates are coming due for expiration, and then we'll go through that same process to make sure we get a new certificate on file. You're just going to let us know how preemptive do you want us to be in that outreach to your customer. Do you want us to do it 90 days before expiration, or 30 days? So we'll work with you just to understand what you want that time frame to look like. Then we have the managed returns, and so this is very similar to outsourcing your payroll. If you owe $100,000 in 10 states, we'll do one lump sum withdrawal of that $100,000 and pay each of the states out individually. We also have an on-time filing guarantee. One of the greatest features in the dashboard is that we have this economic nexus heat map. And so any states that you are not yet registered in, we're going to look at the sales that you're having in those states to see if you're approaching economic nexus in those states. And so at 80% of economic nexus thresholds, you would have this light orange color pop up. At 90% of the threshold, you'd have this darker color. You'll have an account manager who's going to do an outreach to let you know, hey, you're getting close. Do you want us to help get you registered? Or you can just see it on the dashboard. And then if you want to get registered, you'll go ahead and just add to cart to do a checkout. We will never preemptively register you. We wait for you to tell us you're ready. Once you're ready, you'll have a portal that you'll log into where you'll give us some business information, some demographic information about your business, and then we do what we need to do within 5 to 7 business days to get you registered, and then we're at the mercy of the state to get you set up. They'll contact you to say, hey, you've been registered, and then you're just going to let us know that you've got that registration information, and then we'll start charging sales tax in those states as well.
Cameron Duncan. I'm one of the account executives over here at Sage AP Automation, and I work with different companies every single day just to walk through what your current accounts payable workflow looks like and find out where that typical manual process can add some automation and reduce the time you're spending on lots of manual tasks there. So I'll start off by walking you through with a quick little demonstration of our tool. This is on the cloud, so I do want to note we integrate with any version of Sage, so Sage 100 for sure. Any of the others as well. we integrate with Sage pretty seamlessly over here. So any Sage that you have, we are going to be essentially an extension of that. So you can see on this page here on the left-hand side, we have our 4 modules. So we have our invoices, our payments, our purchase orders, and our expenses. And each one of our customers has their own unique instance where they can pick and choose which of these modules they'd like. Everyone has invoices, so I'll be running through a demonstration of that today. Now up here is the life cycle of an invoice, so it flows from left to right. And down here we have our workspace. So like I said, we integrate with Sage, but this is all pre-Sage. So when you receive an invoice, Typical companies oftentimes code this invoice manually, maybe need to get it approved somehow. So whether that be by shooting off an email, a Teams message, maybe even printing out the emailed invoice and bringing it to someone's desk, getting a stamp of approval, we are going to digitize this entire process. So right now, this workspace, this is before anything has been pushed into Sage. Now, in terms of the first step, we need to get invoices into the system. So there's 3 ways for us to do that. The first one, we have an auto forwarding email address. So most companies nowadays receive their invoices to an AP email inbox. So we'll create an auto forwarding rule. So no new inbox needs to be created. We'll simply automatically push these invoices from that email address into our system. So hands-free, all new invoices appear within the new tab. For those that still get paper invoices, there's always a couple. We can take a photo of the invoice using our app, and that'll upload it into our system. Or you can do a good old-fashioned scan and drag and drop. Any one of those 3 ways, first step, we just got to make sure we're getting them into the system. Now, once they're in here, it's going to start to code a lot of this information. So things like vendors, like I said, we are integrated with Sage. So this vendor list is actually pulled straight from Sage. So let's say you have a new vendor, right? You're gonna go and create that vendor within Sage exactly as how you're doing nowadays, and it'll appear here within this list. The invoice number, which is typically coded manually, will be read and automatically coded. The date, the payment terms will calculate a due date based on those terms if they're on the invoice there. And then down here, it's going to grab the information on that line item detail as well. So not only the numbers, but also the descriptions. And this is where we can have some machine learning start to take place. So Standard Gadget and Branded Hats, they both already have GL codes. So getting these GL codes could be assigned in any amount of ways, right? So sometimes it's routed through the approvals. Sometimes the person or the accounts payable specialist knows exactly what GLs to put. We're going to be teaching the system so that no matter which route it goes to get that GL assigned, it's going to remember what was put last time based on the description from this vendor. So in this instance, where Standard Gadget and Branded Hats both have GLs, we've seen this description from this vendor in the past, but Geo4 Supply is here. This is brand new. So we're going to select that GL list. And same thing as what happens with the vendors, this GL list is going to be pulled straight from Sage. So at the end of the day, Sage is always going to be your source of truth. Find that GL code or type it in, and next time you receive that description, it's going to automatically assign that same GL as well. So if you look at that typical manual process of gathering your invoices, coding them, and then routing them through to get approved, with this automation in place, typically our customers see a time savings of around 83%. So turning many manual hours and human error possibilities into an automated error-free process. Now, once this has been coded, we want to submit this for approval. And in the backend, we're going to create some approval structures based on any variety of details that we can think of. So whether it be based on specific dollar amounts, specific legal entities as well. For those of you that have multiple legal entities, we can pull each one of those instances in with their own GL codes, their own vendors. And through that, we'll create rules. So some examples here. Any invoice above $10,000 with this GL and from this vendor will get routed to these people here. Now, something I want to note is that we all love Sage, right? But they do charge per user. So we are not on that same spectrum there. We do not charge per user, meaning we have unlimited users within our system. So any amount of approvers that you need to have in here, you definitely can. And we can add them into an approval workflow. So for example, let's add in that CFO. We can modify the order, or let's say we don't need 3, we can actually group these 2 together. So starting off with Sally, the AP clerk, she'll be approving that first invoice. Once she approves it, it's going to get sent to the CEO and the CFO. Whoever approves that first out of the group will push that through to the next round. This approval can be done either within the browser or on our app. Simply by clicking on that pending approval, the approver will receive a notification saying, hey, you have this invoice you need to approve. Open it up, see a copy of that information, approve or reject. If rejected, it'll get sent back to the previous person. If approved, it'll get passed through and ready to get pushed into Sage. Now we have a seamless integration with Sage, so this will happen behind the scenes. Typically every 4 hours is the scheduled sync, but we can make this more or less frequent depending on your needs. And once it's pushed in there, we also are going to be storing these invoices for you. So I hear all kinds of stories, new ones every single day, surprisingly, but the most common one is definitely filing cabinets or stored in a SharePoint. Now, I would definitely recommend a SharePoint over a filing cabinet. Both are organized in their own way, but above any of those, we will just do all that filing for you. So you can completely eradicate the time that it takes for you to file any of these approved and verified invoices. Now, in the middle here, we have a filter bar. So this filter bar is where we can create reports based on any dimension that you can think of that's on an invoice. So whether you have multiple legal entities, you can pick and choose the ones you want. Org unit, that's our word for organizational structure. So here we have like marketing, sales, IT, some people do departments, some people do locations. And then we can create filters based on any other dimension that's on an invoice. So whether it's a description or a vendor or a GL or whether it's been paid or not, if it's on the invoice, we can create a filter for that. So an example I always like to show is just based on vendor. With one click, I can now see all invoices from ABC Furniture, one of our sample vendors within our system. And I can create a report. So this can be either shown to my boss based on what we've received from this vendor, or it can be audit ready and show it to an auditor as well. Once that report is prepared, we'll see a summary of all invoices within that filter, starting off with a summary page. That summary page will list everything that we can see, all the information that was pushed into Sage, a total dollar amount. We can scroll through, find actual copies of the invoices, or if we want to go ahead and just select one of these numbers on the sides, they are hyperlinks. It'll show us that invoice, the coding information that was pushed right into Sage, the approval history. And for those of you that have purchase orders, it can show any backup documentation or any purchase orders that were matched. And that matching, by the way, will happen automatically as well. We can pull those POs into our system along with that, any receivings that have been pulled into Sage or entered into Sage as well. So open up the invoice and then we can actually see that side-by-side comparison of that PO with that invoice. Now, we do have the 3 other modules just for time's sake today. If you are curious with that, reach out and we can definitely show you a one-on-one demo and how those payments, purchase orders, or expenses, which includes credit card reconciliation and employee reimbursements, works out. But thanks so much for the time, everyone. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can see the software. This is great. So anyone in your organization who has this URL will be able to access the software. The software is loaded on your system. So whether you're being hosted, whether you're on a client server environment, in your own environment, you're going to access the software. Everything is driven from here. So it's all about events, and events are activities or things that happen within your organization, and want to get that information in front of as many eyeballs as possible, so we don't get to the end of the week or the end of the month and go, geez, if we'd only known something had happened, we could have changed the outcome. And it could be things like delivering quotes or invoices or statements or dunning notices. It could be picking lists, anything that's data driven within the application, we can move forward. So first thing we do, we decide which application. So if you're running Sage 100 SQL or the Providex database, we'll just connect to that database that we want to do it. We can also connect to any database that you have. So if you have external information in a SQL box that has WMIS reports or drawings that are associated with things, or anything that has to move between internally or externally to customers, we can connect to that and pull that information out and send it with it. Each module, if you look at Sage 100 as a modular-based thing, has a different component to it. So if I look at AP, right, these are all the different events that we have that are pre-associated with an AP module. So there's 110 different events that happen when I do the install into your system, and that will lend you to then say, okay, what do I want to do? And maybe there's an event here that you like or don't like based on, you know, something that's going on onto your. So if I look at number of unpaid per vendor, right? So I'll go in and edit that. And what does that give me? It shows me all the columns that are in Sage, right? So here's all my column tables. So if you're familiar with the way that Sage is laid out as a database, here's all the information. I select the tables that I want, and that gives me all the columns that I want within that table. At the bottom here, it allows me to select which ones that I want to have associated with the event. Then that information, if I want to preview it, pulls all that information out, and all of a sudden I've got all the information that I want. Now I want to send that to someone, so my next event is to create an event and then send it out to internally or externally of information within Sage. So as you can see here, I've got all this type of different information. So let me just close this, shrink this down, and then I'll go into and let me see if I can do this without all this stuff in my way. There you go. So I'll cancel that one. And then I want to go to something that's different. So let's go to overdue payments. So we'll cancel that. Okay. And now we go to overdue payments. Let's see, overdue payments. And again, the same concept. I decide what I want to draw from the database. And again, I'm pulling this directly from the columns and tables within Sage. And in this case, I've got 10 different items that I want to pull out of this, and you can slice and dice this any way you want, so that you don't have to create reports with all the data in it. You can select the reports with data that's specific to you, and your CFO may want some level of details, your finance people may want another level, your managers may want a different level. So you can slice and dice the data any way you want, so that when you actually preview it before sending, it gives me my invoice dates, my totals, any information that I want is drawn directly from the Sage database. So this is real time. So as things change in the background, you can have trigger events. So if you want to know when a customer's credit limit is changed, or the value of an order is changed, or something is shipped, as soon as that trigger happens within the database, an alert can go out and move forward to it. So we'll just close out of here for a second. Cancel that. Now if I go into another, AP, same sort of thing. So here we've got 34 different events that come into it. So if we want to go, what is the inventory due date in the next date, or something to that effect, you can see as I go through here, these events are created by customers like yourselves, of the things that are important to them as they go through the business process. So a lot of these things are out of the box, up and running to get going. But if I wanted to take something and say, I want to make it very bespoke to me, I want to change the way it looks, I can copy an event, paste it, rename it, and go in and edit that information so that it's always available to you, the original one, plus what's available, what you've created yourself. So this is due dates and X days. So I want to go again, here's the columns I want to select from Sage. These are what's important to me. I want my customer contact, my AR customers, right? So I can expand out here, select which one I want, and then I can add it to the bottom here, so that this is actually my event that I'm creating. And as I go through this, this is the information that I want. And at any time I can preview to make sure, let's put a date field in here. Let's go 30 days. Lets me see all the information that I want. So this is the due dates and NX days, and I said 30 days. So here, based on the columns, I've got the customers, the invoice numbers, the invoice date, the invoice due date, salesperson. But you can granularly do this so that the specific information that you want is delivered to it. So that, again, from an AR point of view. But this goes through, and I won't go through all of them, but I'll just, run into, you can take as many columns as you want. This one happens to be an inventory control. So if there's things in your inventory you want to look like, what is my inventory on hand? When is the last time I shipped something? When was the last time an item has been ordered? When was an item overdue? Anything that's granular level about products within your system. Maybe I just want a complete item list, right? So show me all the items that I've got in Sage right now, and we'll pull them forward based on that. you base the criteria, and we'll allow the database to feed you that data. So it's really that simple to pull that information out. Any comments that you've put in there, the date it was created, the date that was shipped. So all that information is available to you because it's in your Sage database. Again, we're not putting any veneer on anything. We're just looking and pulling that information out, of the application. And let's look at just one more. We'll go to items unsold in X days. So we'll go to this one. This is important. If your inventory is cash, right, then let's look at how long my inventory's been sitting in my system. So we'll go, this is what I want my items controlled from my level. I want a preview. It's going to ask me how long do I want to know that information. Let's go 90 days and set a preview and see if I've got any inventory that's been sitting in my system. So I do. I've got items in there. Now, what can I do with that information? I can maybe take those items, cross-reference it with the customers that use those items, and run a promo, right? So I can get rid of some old stock, which is really freeing up my cash going forward. Once I've got my queries all met, the next thing I need to do is create an event. Now, what is that event that I'm going to do? What is the actions that I want it to have? Well, I want to trigger it, so I'm going to give it a scheduled date that I'm going to send it. So I want to add a date to it. Now I can pre-key a date into it, or I can select a date. I want this to happen every day. I want this to happen every week. I want it to go to my email during the day at my office, but my AR aging report, my cash on hand, how many orders I processed today, those are important to me to sleep at night. I want those to go to my personal email after 6 o'clock, right? So I can select any time of day that it goes out when it's triggered, so that I don't, once it's set, and I could have one event come to me and another event at a different time go to someone else in the organization. How am I going to get delivered, right? So what is the deliverable? Some people want emails, but not everybody's sitting at their desk all day. So maybe an SMS is important for them to get that information so it comes to their phone. Maybe a webcast, so it's sitting there. You've got monitors in the back of your shop, and people can look up and say, okay, these are the items that have to ship today. These are the orders that are going to be processed in today. Maybe it's a webcast where it pops up on someone's desk. What is the deliverable? We can take the data from Sage and we can take it as a report. So it can be a crystal report or SSRS report. We can embed the information into an email so that we can structure it the way that taking all the line details and bringing it right into a body of an email, or send it as attachment as a crystal or a PDF file. We can also send it to a server bank. So if you're saving information into different file formats and that sort of idea. So we determine what the deliverable is. And then finally, who's the subscriber? So who's going to get that information? Is it internal, external? And you can set that up along the way and decide if, is it BCC'd, CCC'd, what have you, or maybe it's a group of people that we want to set up to it. So the first thing that happens with Sage Alerts is you build a query. That query is then turned into an event. The event is then triggered with all the schedules, the timing of that, what's the deliverable, and who's going to get it. That's all the software is doing from the function of it, but it's taking all the data within Sage. So beyond the delivering of forms and things like that, if you have time responses like order by date, ship by date, canceled by date, request date, anything that has a date into it, a date is a trigger, and we can create an event based on that trigger or that date to notify people. So at the beginning of the week, let's send out to shipping, here's all the orders that have to be shipped this week. Here's all the orders that have to be shipped today. Maybe sales wants to know, here's the total value of orders that were processed today and the value of those orders that came in inbound, and these were the orders that went sent out outbound, so that we can track that type of information from a sales point of view. If credit limits change, if you have customers where you have extended them $100,000 worth of credit. They've got $60,000 in AR, $30,000 in-house in processing, and they're just trying to process a new order in for $20,000. Well, that actually extends their credit more than you've accepted for them. So maybe it's an opportunity to create an alert, send it to the salesperson or send it to finance and say, hey, can you help us get this 8R aging report with the 60,000 that's outstanding and get it in before we process that new order in. So all types of things of information that you can use as your fingertips using the data within Sage. So it is your single point of truth as we're pulling it forward. Reports that are generated out, someone in your organization is probably creating an AR aging report, an AP check balance, balance sheets, job statuses, shipments today, that sort of idea. The software can generate those reports and then just send it to someone at 5 o'clock at night or to a group of people. Your subscribers can be internal or external, so you can incorporate your customers and your vendors to it. Where that's cool is let's send them out an invoice. At the same time, let's tie it into the API and maybe connect to SurveyMonkey so that we're tying in and say, here's my NPS score. How did you like my service? That sort of idea. So we can use the API that's associated with Sage Alerts to tie in cloud connected services and bring that information in and encapsulates it within the system. We look at inactivity data. So when was the last time a customer ordered? When was the last time a product moved? All that type of information can be drawn out of Sage that you can use as a data point to make decisions on what you're doing. So show me everything that hasn't moved from a customer. Show me the last time that customer was contacted. Show me the last time they placed an order. Run a trend line on that customer to say how many orders have they processed and the value of those orders or the quantity or the SKU items that they've ordered. And let's see if there's any differentiated greater than 10%. So those type of things that can happen. Anything that's triggered along the way. So again, was Sage moves product or data around the modules, it's a trigger event. Something's moved from order to shipping, that's a trigger to completion of invoice. Every time that happens, it's an opportunity to create an alert to send it out to a customer, to send it out to an event moving forward. So all that goes through. The software takes about an hour to install. It comes with 110, you're up and running within the day. So by the end of day, you're starting to fire these alerts off in your own organization and moving forward. Your partner can assist in the install. It's a downloadable. You're welcome to download it at any time and try it out as a piece of software.